You wake up. You do the things you're supposed to do. You smile when someone asks how you are. And somewhere beneath it all, there's a question you won't say out loud. What's the point? Not in a loud way, not dramatically, just quietly, like a stone in your chest. You keep moving because stopping feels worse, but the motion itself feels empty. Kierkegaard called this despair, not the kind that screams, the kind that whispers, none of this matters, and keeps whispering every single day. Søren Kierkegaard spent his life writing about a very specific kind of suffering, not the suffering that happens to you, the suffering that happens inside you. He called it despair, but he didn't mean sadness. He meant something deeper. He meant the feeling that you are living a life that isn't really yours, that you've built something that looks like a life, but it doesn't feel like one, that you're going through the motions of existence without ever truly existing. Kierkegaard believed that most people live in quiet despair without even knowing it. They think they're fine. They think this hollowness is just how life is. But it isn't. It's what happens when you avoid becoming who you actually are, when you run from the terror of freedom, when you let others decide what your life should mean. He said, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. And maybe that's you. Maybe you've been so busy being what everyone expected that you forgot to ask what you wanted. And now it all feels pointless, because it is. Not life itself, but the life you are performing. You were never asked if you wanted this. The path was already there. Go to school, get good grades, choose a career, be productive, be successful, be happy. But no one told you why. They just said, this is what you do. So you did it. And somewhere along the way, you stopped asking if it was what you wanted. You just assumed it was. Kierkegaard would say you're living in the crowd, not literally surrounded by people, but surrounded by their expectations, their definitions of success, their version of meaning. You're living a borrowed life, and borrowed lives always feel empty because they were never meant for you. You look around and see people who seem fine. They have jobs, relationships, routines. They post photos. They laugh at parties. And you wonder, why can't I feel what they feel? But here's a secret Kierkegaard knew. They don't feel it either. Most of them are just better at pretending. They've learned to silence the question, to bury the emptiness under busyness, under distractions, under the belief that if they just keep moving, it'll eventually mean something. But it won't. Not until they stop running. Not until they turn around and face the truth. This life was never theirs, and neither is yours. You want meaning, but here's what Kierkegaard understood, that most people don't. Meaning isn't something you find, it's something you choose, and that's terrifying. Because if meaning is a choice, then you are responsible for it. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame society. You can't blame the world for not handing you a purpose. You have to create it yourself. And that feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. Kierkegaard called this the dizziness of freedom. The moment you realize you could be anything, do anything, believe anything. And there's no cosmic rule that says which choice is the right one. You are free, and freedom is unbearable, so you avoid it. You let other people decide for you. You follow the path, because following feels safer than choosing. But here's the cost. Every day you don't choose, you lose a piece of yourself. Every day you live by someone else's script. You become a stranger to your own life. And one day You wake up and realize, I don't know who I am. Not really, because you never chose to be anything. You just became what was easiest, what was expected, what required the least confrontation with your own terrifying freedom. Kierkegaard said, anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. That nausea you feel when you think about your life, that's not weakness. That's the weight of possibility. That's your soul realizing it's been hiding and it's tired of it. Imagine a man who spends his entire life building a house. Every day, he lays bricks, he measures, he plans, he works in the sun and in the rain. And after 30 years, the house is finished, it's perfect. Every wall is straight, every window gleams. He stands back and looks at it, and he feels nothing, because he realizes he built the house someone else designed. He followed the blueprint they gave him, and now he's standing in front of something that was never his. The house is beautiful, but it's empty, because he is not in it. He never was. That's what happens when you live for other people's approval. When you chase their version of success, when you build a life that looks right but feels wrong, you end up with something perfect and meaningless, a beautiful prison. And the worst part, you built it yourself. Kierkegaard believed that the deepest form of despair is not knowing you're in despair. It's the man who thinks he's fine, who thinks this numbness is normal, who mistakes survival for living. He's not screaming, he's not crying, he's just empty, and he doesn't even realize it, because he's never stopped long enough to feel it. He feels his calendar, he scrolls his phone, he says yes to things he doesn't want to do. He keeps moving, because if he stops, he'll have to face the truth. I am not living, I am hiding. And maybe that's you. Maybe you've been hiding for so long, you forgot what it feels like to be seen, even by yourself, especially by yourself. Because seeing yourself means admitting things you don't want to admit. That you've wasted time, that you've betrayed yourself, that you've said yes when you meant no, that you've smiled when you wanted to scream, that you've been so afraid of disappointing others, that you've spent your entire life disappointing yourself. Kierkegaard would ask you, who are you when no one is watching? Not who you pretend to be, not who you think you should be, but who you are in the silence, in the dark, when there's no one left to impress. Who is that person? And here's the painful part. Most people don't know, because they've never met them. They've spent so long performing that they don't know what's real anymore. They've confused the mask with the face, and now they're terrified to take it off. Because what if there's nothing underneath? What if they've pretended for so long that they've disappeared? But Kierkegaard would tell you, you haven't disappeared. You've just been buried. Beneath expectations, beneath fear, beneath the weight of a life you never chose. And the only way out is to dig, to go down into the dark parts of yourself you've been avoiding, to ask the questions you've been too afraid to ask. What do I actually want? What do I actually believe? Who am I without the applause? These questions hurt, because the answers might destroy the life you've built. But that's the point. You can't build something real on a foundation of lies. You have to tear it down first. You have to face the rubble. You have to grieve the person you thought you were supposed to be. And then, slowly, painfully, you have to start choosing. Not choosing the safe thing, not choosing the impressive thing, choosing the true thing, the thing that terrifies you because it's yours. Kierkegaard called this becoming a self. It's not about finding yourself, It's about creating yourself. It's about standing in the terrifying freedom of your existence and saying, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what matters to me. Even if no one agrees, even if no one understands, even if it costs you everything. Because here's the secret, the pointlessness you feel isn't about life, it's about your life. The life you're living right now. The one that isn't yours. Life doesn't feel pointless when you're living it honestly, when you're making choices that align with who you actually are, when you're building something that matters to you, not to them. The emptiness comes from the gap between who you are and who you are pretending to be. And the wider that gap, the more unbearable existence becomes. Kierkegaard knew this. He spent his life writing about it, not because he had the answers, but because he lived the questions. He broke off an engagement because he knew he couldn't be the husband she wanted. He wrote under pseudonyms because he was too afraid to speak in his own voice. He died young, lonely, misunderstood, but he died honest. He died having confronted himself. He died having chosen. And that's all any of us can do. Choose, even when the choice terrifies us, even when the choice isolates us, even when the choice makes no sense to anyone but us. We choose, because choosing is the only thing that makes us real. So when life feels pointless, Kierkegaard would ask you, whose life are you living? Because if it's not yours, of course, it feels pointless. Of course, it feels empty. You're not in it. You're watching it happen. You're letting it happen. But you're not living it. And you won't. Not until you stop asking what you're supposed to do and start asking what you want to do. Not until you stop living for their approval and start living for your own integrity. Not until you stop running from freedom and start embracing it, even though it's terrifying, especially because it's terrifying. The pointlessness doesn't go away because you find the perfect answer. It goes away because you start asking the right questions. And you start answering them honestly. You start saying no to things that drain you. You start saying yes to things that scare you. You start building a life that feels like yours, even if it looks like nothing anyone else would choose, because it's not about them. It never was. It's about you and the relationship you have with your own existence, and whether you can look at yourself at the end of the day and say, I was honest, I was here, I chose. Kierkegaard believed that the path to meaning is through suffering. Not suffering for its own sake, but the suffering of becoming, the suffering of shedding who you were told to be, the suffering of standing alone, the suffering of choosing when there's no guarantee you're choosing right. That suffering is sacred because it means you're awake. It means you're alive. It means you're no longer hiding. And yes, it hurts. God, it hurts. But it's a different kind of hurt. It's not the dull ache of emptiness. It's the sharp pain of growth, of becoming, of finally starting to live. So here's what Kierkegaard says. When life feels pointless, it feels pointless because you're not in it yet. You're standing outside your own life, watching it happen, wondering why it doesn't move you. And it never will. Not until you step inside. Not until you choose it. Not until you make it yours. And that's terrifying, because making it yours means taking responsibility. It means you can't blame anyone else anymore. It means you have to stand in the unbearable freedom of your existence and build something, even if you don't know what, even if you're afraid, even if it all falls apart. You build, because building is the only thing that makes life feel real. and real is all that matters. Not happy, not successful, not impressive. Real, and real is always chosen, never given. The pointlessness will whisper, it always does. But now you know what it's really saying. It's saying, you're not choosing, you're just existing. And existing is not enough. So choose, even if you choose wrong, even if you choose small, even if you choose something no one else understands. Choose, because choosing is the only antidote to despair. And you've been in despair long enough. It's time to be free. Even if freedom destroys you, even if freedom changes everything, it's time you wake up. You do the things you choose to do. And somewhere beneath it all, there's no longer a question. There's a quiet knowing. This is mine. This matters. I chose this. And that's enough. Not forever, not perfectly, but for now, for today, it's enough.